Think about the last time you wanted something desperately. A relationship, a goal, a new chapter of your life. You thought about it constantly. It felt like the answer. And then you got it. Or you started it. And somewhere between week 2 and month 3, that feeling quietly died. Not loudly, not dramatically. It just stopped showing up. And you were left holding something you used to want, wondering why it no longer felt like enough. This is not about commitment issues or weak character. This is about a specific psychological mechanism that operates inside every human mind. Here is a finding from Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert that most people never hear. His decades of research show that humans are consistently, predictably wrong about how good things will make them feel, and for how long. We overestimate the emotional payoff of goals, relationships, and achievements. We build a mental image of how life will feel once we get there, and that image is always more emotionally intense than the reality that follows. Psychologists call this the impact bias. Positive psychology expert Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar named the resulting experience the Arrival Fallacy. The moment you cross the finish line you spent months running toward and feel strangely empty on the other side. What you were actually in love with was not the thing. It was the version of yourself that was pursuing it. The anticipation, the imagination, the progress, those are where the emotional electricity lives. The moment you arrive, that electricity has nowhere to go. This is why people leave relationships that are genuinely good, quit goals they genuinely care about, and abandon hobbies they genuinely love. Not because those things failed them, but because their brains had already spent the reward before it arrived. Your brain's reward system runs on dopamine, but dopamine is not a satisfaction chemical. It is an anticipation chemical. It spikes in the presence of the new, the uncertain, the just out of reach. The moment something becomes familiar, known, and predictable, your dopamine response begins to withdraw. Neuroscience research confirms that novel stimuli activate the brain's mesolimbic reward pathway intensely, the same pathway involved in every form of addiction. This is why the first conversation with someone new feels electric, why the first week of a new project feels inspired, and why both can feel completely ordinary 60 days later, even though nothing has objectively changed. The brain registers familiarity as a signal to redirect attention elsewhere, toward whatever is novel, uncertain, and potentially rewarding. In the context of human evolution, this made perfect sense. Here is what makes this topic genuinely complicated. Boredom, that restless, hollow feeling that arrives when interest fades, is not simply a sign that something is wrong with what you are doing. Research from the University of Waterloo describes boredom as a motivational signal, a call to action that the brain produces when it determines its current engagement is not meeting a deeper need for meaning or challenge. In other words, boredom is not telling you to leave. It is telling you to go deeper or to go differently. The problem is that in a world full of instant alternatives, most people answer that signal by switching, when the actual response it is asking for is growth. The discomfort of boredom sits precisely at the threshold of mastery, and almost everyone steps away right before the threshold opens. There is a cruel irony at the center of this. The phase that feels most like losing interest is often the phase just before real connection begins. In a new relationship, the dopamine intensity of the early weeks was never intimacy, it was chemistry. Actual intimacy requires conflict, patience, boredom, and repair. In a new skill, the early excitement was never mastery, it was beginner's luck and novelty. Real mastery requires plateau, frustration, and the willingness to be bad for longer than feels comfortable. In a new goal, the initial fire was never purpose, it was fantasy. Real purpose survives the absence of inspiration. 4 things. First, when interest fades, name it. Say, this is the arrival fallacy, or this is my dopamine recalibrating. That single act of labeling interrupts the automatic response and buys your rational mind time to respond. Second, Introduce structured novelty within the commitment. A new angle, a harder challenge, a different context, rather than abandoning the thing entirely. Third, separate the question, am I excited, from the question, does this still matter? They are not the same question, and confusing them is the source of most unnecessary quitting. Fourth, build identity around the process, not the outcome. People who define themselves as a writer, a partner, a builder, not someone who wants to write, love, or build, don't need excitement to continue. Identity is more durable than motivation. Interest fades. That is not the exception to the human experience. That is the design of it. The question that actually determines the quality of your life is what you do in the space after the excitement leaves and before the depth arrives. Most people fill that space with something new. A few people sit in it long enough to find out what was there all along. If this video made you think differently, like and subscribe.